AITA set boundaries with my wife's best friend who constantly flirts with me in front of my wife. I'm a 33-year-old man, happily married for the past 6 years. My wife and I have a pretty solid relationship, and I've always considered myself lucky to have her in my life. We share a lot of good times, from late-night movie marathons to adventurous hikes, and our bond is something I deeply cherish. But lately, there's been this cloud hanging over what should be our blissful wedded life, and it's all because of her best friend, Karen. Karen has been my wife's best friend since they were in college, and they've always been inseparable. She's funny, charming, and undeniably attractive, but she's never really been someone I paid much attention to in a romantic sense. Why would I? I'm married to the love of my life, but for the past 2 years, Karen's behavior towards me has shifted from friendly to flirtatious, and it's been a real test of my patience and boundaries. It started subtly. During our social gatherings, she'd make the occasional flirty comment. A casual "you're looking good today," or "I wish I had met you first," would be thrown my way, usually in the presence of my wife. Initially, I shrugged it off as harmless banter. Karen was always the life of the party, the one who could make everyone laugh, so maybe this was just her way of being playful. But as time went on, her comments became more frequent and a lot more intense. There was this one time at a BBQ we were hosting. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over our backyard, and everyone was in high spirits. Karen sauntered up to me while I was manning the grill, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. "You know," she said, her voice dripping with flirtation, "you look really hot in that shirt." She placed her hand on my arm, letting it linger just a bit too long. I felt a rush of discomfort but managed to force a smile. I glanced over at my wife, who was chatting with some friends nearby. She caught my eye and gave me an amused look, as if to say, "Oh, there goes Karen again." I decided to address it with my wife later that night. As we were getting ready for bed, I mentioned how Karen's comment had made me uncomfortable. My wife laughed it off, saying, "Don't flatter yourself, she doesn't want to sleep with you. It's just her sense of humor." I tried to explain that it didn't feel like a joke to me, but my wife assured me it was all in good fun. "You're overthinking it," she said, giving me a peck on the cheek before turning out the light. Despite my wife's reassurances, the flirtatious behavior continued and even escalated. One evening, we were having a game night with a group of friends. Karen was in rare form, cracking jokes and making everyone laugh. At one point, she came over to where I was sitting, plopped herself onto my lap, and announced, "I hope your wife doesn't mind if I steal you for a moment." Everyone laughed, including my wife, who rolled her eyes and chuckled. I felt my face flush with embarrassment and irritation. I gently but firmly nudged Karen off my lap, trying to keep the mood light. Okay, enough stealing," I said, forcing a laugh. Later, as we were cleaning up, I brought it up to my wife again. "Seriously, I'm not comfortable with the way Karen acts around me. It feels disrespectful," my wife sighed, clearly exasperated. "It's just a joke, babe. She's not serious. Can't you just let it go?" I could see she wasn't taking my feelings seriously, and that hurt. I decided to drop the subject for the time being, hoping that maybe Karen would tone it down on her own. But she didn't. If anything, she seemed to get bolder. There was a dinner party at our place, a small gathering of close friends. Karen, as usual, was the center of attention. At one point, she leaned over the table, looking straight at me, and said, "If only I had met you first, things might have been different." My wife laughed, but this time, I didn't. I felt a surge of frustration. Why couldn't anyone else see how inappropriate this was? As the weeks went by, I found myself dreading social events where Karen would be present. I didn't want to cause a scene or make things awkward, but I couldn't keep pretending that her behavior was okay. I tried to avoid being alone with her, but it seemed like she was always finding excuses to get close to me. I was reaching my breaking point. One afternoon, my wife and I were having a rare moment of quiet together. We were lounging on the couch, enjoying the peacefulness of a lazy Sunday. I decided to bring it up one more time. "Look, I know you think it's just a joke, but Karen's flirting is really bothering me. I don't feel comfortable around her anymore." My wife looked at me, a mix of confusion and annoyance on her face. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" She's my best friend. She's not trying to steal you away. You're being overly sensitive. I felt a lump form in my throat. It's not about her stealing me away. It's about respect. I feel disrespected when she makes those comments, and it hurts that you don't seem to care. My wife sighed deeply. Fine. If it bothers you that much, I'll talk to her. But I still think you're overreacting. A few days later, we had another gathering at our place. I was on edge, wondering if my wife had actually talked to Karen and if things would be different this time. As the evening progressed, Karen seemed to be on her best behavior. I felt a glimmer of hope, thinking maybe things would finally change. But then, as we were saying our goodbyes, Karen pulled me into a hug and whispered in my ear, "I know you like the attention." I pulled away, feeling a mix of anger and disappointment. Clearly, my wife's talk hadn't made any difference. That was the last straw. I realized I couldn't rely on my wife to set the boundaries for me. I needed to take matters into my own hands. The next time Karen made a flirty comment, I decided I wouldn't laugh it off or brush it aside. I'd address it head on. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. We were at another social gathering, this time at a mutual friend's house. Karen sauntered up to me with that familiar mischievous smile. "You know, you should wear that shirt more often. It really shows off your muscles," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Karen, I need to talk to you for a minute, in private." She looked surprised but followed me into a quieter corner of the room. "What's up?" she asked, still smiling. "Look, I appreciate that you and my wife are close, but the way you've been acting around me makes me really uncomfortable. The comments, the flirting, it needs to stop." Karen's smile faltered. "Oh, come on. You know it's all in good fun. Your wife knows it too." "No, it's not fun for me," I said firmly. "I feel disrespected, and it's affecting my relationship with my wife. I need you to understand that and respect my boundaries." Karen's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "Wow, I didn't realize you were such a prude. It's just harmless fun." "It might be harmless to you, but it's not to me," I replied. "Please, just stop." Karen rolled her eyes but didn't say anything more. I walked away, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. I had no idea how my wife would react when she found out, but I knew I had done the right thing. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, my wife asked me what I had said to Karen. I told her the truth, bracing myself for her reaction. As I finished recounting the conversation I had with Karen, my wife's expression hardened. She looked at me with a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "I can't believe you actually said that to her," she snapped. "You're seriously overreacting. Karen's just being playful, and now you've made it awkward for everyone." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. I didn't mean to make things awkward. I just needed her to understand how uncomfortable her comments make me feel. This isn't about her being playful, it's about respect. She crossed her arms, shaking her head. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. Karen is my best friend. She would never do anything to hurt our marriage. You're just being paranoid." Frustration welled up inside me. It's not paranoia. It's about setting boundaries. If roles were reversed and a guy was acting this way towards you, I'd stand up for you. She sighed deeply, clearly exasperated. "I just don't see it the same way you do. You're making a big deal out of nothing." The rest of the night was tense. We went to bed without speaking further, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The following days were filled with an uncomfortable silence. I could sense my wife's irritation, and it seemed like she was avoiding any meaningful conversation with me. Then, one Friday evening, I came home from work feeling drained. It had been a long week, and all I wanted was to relax and spend some quiet time with my wife. As I stepped inside the house, I noticed it was unusually quiet. No TV, no music, just silence. I called out for my wife, but there was no response. I figured she might be in the bedroom, so I headed upstairs. As I approached the bedroom door, I heard faint rustling sounds. My heart pounded in my chest as I pushed the door open. What I saw made my blood run cold. Karen was standing in the middle of our bedroom, dressed only in her underwear. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw me. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Karen quickly recovered from her surprise and smirked. "Oh, hey, I was just waiting for you, thought I'd surprise you." I clenched my fists, trying to control my rage. "Get out, now." Karen's smirk faltered, but she didn't move. "Oh, come on, don't be such a prude. I thought we could have some fun." "Get out," I repeated through gritted teeth, my anger barely contained. Karen took a step closer, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "You know you like the attention. Why else would you make such a big deal out of it?" I took a step back, trying to keep my distance. I said, "Get out." But Karen ignored my words and moved even closer. Before I could react, she reached out and placed a hand on my chest. "You don't have to pretend, you know. Your wife isn't here, it's just us." I grabbed her wrist and tried to push her away, but she twisted out of my grasp and wrapped her arms around my neck, pressing her body against mine. "Karen, stop it," I said, my voice rising in panic. She leaned in, her breath hot against my ear. "Come on, you've thought about it, haven't you? Just once." "No," I said firmly, trying to untangle myself from her grip. "I love my wife. This is wrong." Karen's grip tightened as she started to nuzzle my neck. "She doesn't have to know," she whispered. "It can be our little secret." Desperation surged through me. I shoved her away with all my strength, causing her to stumble backward. I said, "Stop." Karen stumbled backward but quickly regained her footing. Instead of backing off, she stepped forward again, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Come on," she purred, her voice dripping with seduction. "You know you like it. I can see it in your eyes." I shook my head, trying to keep my voice steady. "Karen, this isn't funny. You need to leave now." Ignoring my plea, she moved closer, her hand sliding up my chest and around my neck again. "You're so tense," she murmured. "Let me help you relax." I tried to push her away, but she was surprisingly strong. She pressed her body against mine, her lips grazing my ear. "You're so handsome," she whispered. "I've always thought so. Don't you want to know what it would be like, just once?" My heart pounded in my chest, panic and anger surging through me. "Karen, stop it. This isn't right." She laughed softly, her breath warm against my skin. "There's no one here to judge us. It's just you and me. Let's enjoy ourselves." I felt a surge of desperation and shoved her away with all my strength. She stumbled back, and just as she was about to say something, there was a loud thud from the closet. Both Karen and I turned to see the closet door swing open. My wife tumbled out, struggling to maintain her balance. She looked up at us, her face a mixture of amusement and embarrassment. "What the hell?" I exclaimed, my heart racing. My wife burst into laughter, clutching her sides. "Oh my God, you should have seen your face," she gasped between giggles. Karen joined in, her laughter ringing through the room. "We got you good." I stared at them in disbelief. "This was a prank, you were both in on this." My wife nodded, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "We thought it would be funny to see how you'd react. You're always so serious about everything." I stood there, completely in shock, unable to process what had just happened. Karen and my wife continued to laugh, their amusement echoing through the room. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of this twisted prank they had played on me. "You guys really went too far this time," I finally managed to say, my voice shaky with a mix of anger and confusion. My wife, still giggling, walked over to me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "Oh, come on, honey, you have to admit it was pretty funny. You should have seen your face." Karen, still in her underwear, came closer as well. "We just wanted to teach you to lighten up a bit. You're always so serious about everything." I shook my head, trying to suppress the growing sense of betrayal. There are other ways to teach someone to lighten up that don't involve this. My wife sighed, her laughter fading into a softer smile. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We thought it would be a harmless joke." I pulled away from her embrace, needing some space to gather my thoughts. "I need a minute," I muttered, heading towards the bathroom to splash some cold water on my face. As I stared at my reflection in the mirror, I tried to calm the storm of emotions inside me. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and above all, deeply uncomfortable with how far they had taken this so-called joke. I took a few deep breaths and decided that I needed to address this calmly and firmly. When I returned to the bedroom, Karen had put on a robe, and my wife was sitting on the bed, looking a bit more serious. "We're really sorry," she said softly. "We didn't mean to push you so far." I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "I appreciate the apology, but this crossed a line for me. I need you both to understand that." Karen nodded as well. "We do. We went too far, and we're sorry." A little while later, we found ourselves sitting around the dinner table. The atmosphere was a bit tense, but we were trying to move past the incident. My wife and Karen started chatting about lighter topics, and the tension slowly began to ease. We had a delicious meal, and for a moment, it seemed like things were returning to normal. As we finished dinner and moved on to dessert, the conversation took a surprising turn. My wife and Karen began complimenting each other, their words laced with a flirty undertone. "You know, Karen," my wife said, her eyes sparkling with mischief, "you really do have a great sense of humor, and you look amazing tonight." Karen smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Thank you, you're stunning as always. And you, my dear," she turned to me, "you're incredibly handsome and kind. We're both lucky to have you." I felt a blush creeping up my neck, unsure of where this was going. Thanks." Karen leaned forward, her gaze intense. "We've been talking, and we think it would be great if you joined us." I blinked, not quite understanding. "Joined you, for what?" My wife placed her hand on mine, her touch gentle but deliberate. "We've been thinking about trying something new, maybe a threesome." I felt my heart race, a mixture of shock and confusion flooding my senses. "What, are you serious?" Karen nodded, her smile inviting. "We thought it might be a fun way to explore our relationship and add some excitement. No pressure, of course, just something to consider." I looked between the two of them, trying to process what they were suggesting. I don't know. This is a lot to take in." My wife squeezed my hand reassuringly. "It's just an idea. We want you to be comfortable and happy. If it's not something you're into, we can forget about it." Karen nodded in agreement. "Absolutely. It's about all of us being on the same page and enjoying each other's company." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their proposal. "I appreciate you both being open about this, but I need some time to think. This isn't something I can decide on the spot." They both smiled warmly, understanding in their eyes. "Take all the time you need," my wife said softly. "We just want to be open and honest with each other." As we continued our evening, the air felt lighter, but my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The idea of a threesome was something I had never considered, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But one thing was clear: communication and respect were crucial, and we would need to navigate this new territory with care and understanding. I spent the next few days in a whirlwind of thoughts. My wife and Karen continued to act normally, giving me space to process their suggestion. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for a response. It was a confusing time, filled with doubt and curiosity. Finally, after much contemplation, I decided to discuss it with them. I needed to address my feelings and understand their intentions better. One evening, as we sat in the living room, I took a deep breath and said, "I've thought about what you both suggested. I have to admit, I'm curious, but also a bit apprehensive." My wife smiled gently. "It's okay to feel that way. We want this to be something we're all comfortable with. There's no rush, no pressure." Karen nodded. "Exactly. We just thought it might be an exciting way to explore our relationship." I looked into their eyes, seeing the sincerity in them. "All right, I'm willing to give it a try. but I need to know that we're all in this together, and it's about enhancing our relationship, not causing harm. My wife leaned over and kissed me softly. Thank you for being open-minded. We promise, it's about us all enjoying this experience. A few nights later, the three of us found ourselves in the bedroom. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and nervous excitement. We began slowly, exploring each other with tentative touches and gentle kisses. As the moments passed, the passion between us grew, and the initial awkwardness melted away. Corinne's hands moved over my body with expert precision, and my wife's lips found mine, igniting a fire within me. The three of us became a tangle of limbs, each touch sending waves of pleasure through us. It was an intense, electrifying experience, filled with a mixture of emotions I had never felt before. As we reached the peak of our passion, I felt completely immersed in the moment, lost in the sensations and the connection with both women. My wife was beside me, her breath hot against my skin, while Corinne's hands explored every inch of my body. And then, just as the intensity reached its zenith, my wife suddenly pulled away and started laughing. Corinne joined in, their laughter cutting through the heated atmosphere like a knife. I blinked, trying to understand what was happening. What's going on? My wife sat up, still laughing. Oh my God, I can't believe you actually went through with it. Corinne was laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. You should have seen your face. I felt a cold wave of realization crash over me. What do you mean, this was all a joke? My wife nodded, her laughter fading into a more serious expression. We never thought you'd actually agree to it. I wanted to see if you would. I didn't think you'd go through with cheating on me. Anger and humiliation surged through me. You set me up, you manipulated me into this. Corinne tried to interject. It was supposed to be harmless fun. We didn't mean to hurt you. I got out of bed, feeling a mix of betrayal and rage. This is not harmless. You played with my feelings, my trust. This is not how you treat someone you love. My wife reached out to me, her expression contrite. I didn't realize it would go this far. I thought you would back out before it got serious. I stood there, trying to process the magnitude of what had just happened. My wife and Corinne's laughter had died down, replaced by awkward silence. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal wash over me. The trust I had in my wife, in our relationship, had been deeply wounded. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. This isn't a joke. This is our marriage, our trust, our love. You both crossed a line. Corinne's smile faded, and she looked genuinely remorseful. We didn't mean to hurt you. It was just supposed to be a prank. My wife looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would go this far. I just wanted to see if you would, I don't know, resist. I shook my head, unable to believe what I was hearing. This isn't about resistance or some test. This is about respect. You disrespected our marriage and my trust. I turned to Corinne, my voice firm. Corinne, I need to set some boundaries. From now on, no more flirting, no more suggestive comments, and definitely no more pranks like this. If you can't respect that, then we need to reevaluate our interactions. Corinne nodded, her face serious. I understand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you or cause any problems between you and your wife. I looked back at my wife, my eyes filled with hurt. And you. I don't know how we're going to move past this, but you need to understand how deeply this has affected me. Trust is the foundation of our marriage, and right now, that foundation is cracked. My wife reached out to me, tears in her eyes. I know. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I don't know what I was thinking. So AITA if I took it upon myself to set these boundaries with my wife's best friend, even though my wife thinks it's all just a joke.